Hey, everybody. Happy Easter. If you celebrate. If you don't, happy 420. If you celebrate. If you don't, happy Sunday. How's that? That should cover all bases, right? Any other holidays that I'm missing that should pop up? Much love, whatever it is. So, all right. So, didn't know I was going to do a stream tonight, but was on the computer working away, but spent the last hour working on a Chaos game. So last time I talked to you, I had done the prequel or the prelude, and now that I've gotten into actually writing the book, I think I'm just going to mix what I did for the prelude into the first chapter. It'll make more sense. Plus, it doesn't. My concern was how to tell the prelude from a different person's point of view, since all the Fog books are written from Jimmy Doyle's point of view. But this kind of, how I'm going to do it, solves that problem. Hey, Ed, happy Easter. So I started writing. Jimmy's voice is back in my head now, so I can write as Jimmy. And that's always important. That's the hardest part of sitting down and doing this, is when I write something that's in third person, it's not that big a deal. I'm telling a story. But when I do a Fog book, I have to kind of mentally become Jimmy, because I have to write as Jimmy. It's got to feel like Jimmy is talking, is his thoughts, it's his mannerisms. What's also interesting is it has been so long since I've worked on the Fog novels that I don't remember certain things. So this is going to sound interesting. I've come to a point where I use, they call it Copilot. It's an AI thing. And where I'm against AI for creating stories. I don't think AI should be used for creating stories or music or stuff like that. AI is awesome for research. And it turns out they know my books. So I can put in something like, who is Ariel in the Lucius Fogg books? And it'll give me a rough idea. Or, I didn't remember if I had ever made it known to all the citizens about the supernatural in the Fog world. I didn't think I did, but I put that into Copilot, and it gave me an answer, and that's kind of cool, So from that point of view, I see a lot of some cool stuff that AI can do, and I do that, when I'm working on other stuff too. If I'm working on an article and I want to be able to give some backstory, like, okay, this guy got cast in this show, I can go to IMDb and look up all the different things they've been in, and I can go over here and I can go over there. I could just ask Copilot, and it'll give me kind of a rundown, and then I can pull the information out of Copilot. And it just kind of is a summarization tool. So where I'm not a big fan of AI for generating art, for generating creative stories, I do like it as a research tool, and here's an example. There's a sporting event that I wanted to mention, not a specific one, but I wanted to mention a sporting event because I like to give as much reality to my stories as possible. So I asked Copilot if who a team played in a certain year or beat in a certain year. And they gave me the answer. And I said, okay, did this team beat this team in this stadium in this year? And it gave me the answer and the score and stuff like that. And then I could take that information and put that in. Otherwise, I would have to go out to Google. I would have to pull up, um, you know, say it was the Yankees 1959 schedule. And then I'd have to go through and go, oh, their home schedule. Okay, and who did they win or beat or whatever in this month? Because that's where this is taken. So I'm finding that from a point, a research thing, AI is cool. And it's part of Windows. So I just pull up Copilot, and it's part of Word now too. So that's, I understand the excitement for AI from that point of view. So I don't want AI to be writing stories. I don't want them to be creating art. But yeah, I think it's pretty cool. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm back into writing Jimmy Doyle, and I'm excited about it because I love writing Jimmy. I love when Jimmy is in my brain because Jimmy is, how do I put this? Jimmy is the best of me. Maybe not the best. Jimmy is the ultimate version of me. He's got the jokes. He's got the right things to say. He can always figure things out. Jimmy is what I wish I was. So when I get to write as him, I get to be him for a while. And it's only something you get to do in first person narratives. You know, when I wrote Blythe, I didn't become Aaron Cooper. When I wrote Vampirella, I didn't try to become Vampirella. I didn't write them in the first person narratives because those aren't characters I can really get into their head, where I can with Jimmy. Also, there's a tone and inflection he uses that I will go back to, and I'll be honest about the inspiration for the Fogg and Doyle relationship is Nero Wolfe. And anybody who reads Nero Wolfe will see it. But you go through detective stories, there's only a handful of iconic detectives. There's Wolfe and Doyle, or Goodwin. There's Sherlock and Watson. There's Sam Spade. You know, there's these types of detectives. There's Miss Marple. And you can use them as inspiration. Hercule Poirot, stuff like that. So when you see a character who is, okay, let's take Harry Dresden Files. When you read Dresden Files, that's basically Sam Spade with magic. His attitude towards the police and stuff, to authority, his just everything about it is the classic noir detective. Yeah, that's those are the Grey Knights. I have both the Combat Patrol and the Border Patrol. Majority of them, well, they're all built, and I've got a couple extra figures from that. And about half of it's painted. So I can play a Combat Patrol game anytime I'm ready to go. So, yeah. I'm currently working on A Thousand Suns Army. That's the leader of that one. Can I get a good... And Lisa and I are working on that one together. because that's the army she'll play when she wants to play. And then I have my Age of Sigmar, which is the fantasy version of Warhammer. I'm working on my Slaves to Darkness figures, and that's the leader of them. And I've got a bunch of figures to build and paint for that. And Lisa's doing a Seraphim army. So lots of painting in my future. So, okay, what was I saying? So when I sat down to create Lucius Fogg back in mid-2000s, Jade Dodge from Celador Publishing, they had this idea that they were going to do these chapter books digitally and release a chapter a week, and you'd play and or you'd pay, you'd get a chapter. She asked me to write one, and that's where I came up with Lucius Fogg. Is I took the idea of a Nero Wolf relationship and I added magic, made my own characters, made my own backstory, but the dynamic of Wolf and Goodwin became the dynamic of Fogg and Doyle. You know, the detective, the brilliant detective who doesn't leave his house, and the leg man that works for it. So what's that? When you play it, is it more like D&D or Risk? It's more like chess in the sense that it's a war game. You know, you're battling forces, you're putting out different squadrons. It's a turn-based war game, and each figure has things they can do, damage they can do, stuff like that. So it's pretty fascinating. If you've ever played something like StarCraft from the guys that do World of Warcraft, StarCraft is similar, but yeah, it's basically two armies on a pitched battlefield. So, and you fight, and there's objectives on the field you try to take, possess certain areas, do certain things, but also you try to kill each other. And certain squads are good with doing certain types of attacks. So it's probably closest to StarCraft, but with an army and with figures and tabletop version. I've only played a couple times. My nephew is the one that got me into it, and he and I have only been able to play a few times since he moved, and his army's not completely painted, even though I started after him. But we're talking about playing again soon. There's a store local that I should just pick up my my Combat Patrol and go down there and see if I can get into a game or two. But I want to find some more local people to play and start playing more regularly. That will inspire me to get the rest of my figures finished and stuff like that. But I do enjoy the hell out of building them, and I do enjoy painting them, building a little better. But and it's a fun game. So you've got like the collecting aspect of it, the building, the painting aspect, and then the playing. So it's kind of it's a fascinating thing. You know, it's like with D&D, you buy a figure, you paint it, and you play the game. Here, you're building an army. You got to build, you know, your Dread Knight Nemesis, your Paladin army, your foot soldiers, your leaders. All depends on the game, on the army. And there's so many different factions you can get into that have all of their own unique backstories. If you want to learn a little bit about Warcraft without, sorry, not Warcraft, Warhammer, without spending any money, and if you play games on your phone, there is a game on, I know it's on iOS, it's probably on Android, it's called Tacticus, Taticus, and it's in the Warhammer universe, and you collect figures, or you collect armies, you fight against each other, there's chaos, there's, I mean, it'll give you the backstory, the history and stuff without having to spend any money, so you can get a little bit of what it's like. And then if you're interested, you can go find a Warhammer store and start buying it. There's plenty of videos online on picking the faction, getting into the games, actual playing. But I would start with either watching stuff online or downloading the Tacticus game. So Tacticus is one of the games I spend a lot of time playing on my phone. DC Dark Legends is another, Marvel Strike Force, Marvel Contest of Champions. Those are probably the big ones I play right now. I was playing Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, but I kind of lost interest in that. So, all right. So I just wanted to say that I'm close to finishing the first chapter of Chaos Game. Once that's done and I can get a roll, this book will probably happen pretty quickly. I'll have to get a hold of Jason, nudge him to get the cover done, and get a hold of Salome, let her know pages are coming, or manuscript. I usually send it to her by chapters, but I want to get a few chapters in. I got a big twist coming, and I think it's going to be 9 or 10 chapters in, so I don't know if she knows it or not, and I kind of want to wait until I have everything built up to that and then send it to her. But it's interesting because I'm really looking at this as a new start. None of what happened in the previous Fog books will disappear. They still exist. Deadly creatures, malicious intent, educated corpses, they all exist. They all are part of it, but they become almost like a prequel series in a sense to Obsidian Moon. This lays the groundwork and gives a backstory to Fog. So if you haven't read them yet, I do recommend it, but you don't have to. You'll be able to jump in with Chaos Game. Part of what I'm writing in the first chapter is to make sure that new readers can get a loose idea of what's going on. So, but yeah, okay, so Obsidian Moon is moving forward. I still kind of want a partner on this. And I don't mean a writing partner, I mean a business partner. I want to find someone who understands Kickstarter and publishing somewhat and would be willing to help me with that side of it. Figuring out the best way to do these books. I don't want to keep them just digital or just through Amazon. I want to try to do a Kickstarter. That's my plan, is to do a Kickstarter. Unless I find a publisher to come along and go, we like your idea, we want to fund it. But it would have to be willing to fund all of it, because it's big now. It's 6 properties. So I am looking for a business partner, someone who's willing to come in and put the work in on that side of it while I put the work in on the writing side of it. But we'll see if I can find somebody. All right, let's move on. I want to talk about some of the other stuff that happened this week. I know you guys want to talk about Daredevil season finale. That's not what I expected. Man, it was good. I did not expect Castle to the spoiler things on, so run now if you haven't watched Daredevil. I did not expect Castle to try to just go crazy and run in and take on everybody. I don't know why I didn't expect that. It is Frank Castle. But that was surprising. Almost as surprising as Matt going, no, we need an army. Kingpin taking out the police commissioner. They definitely wanted to up the stakes on that, and they did. But looking at what might happen in season 2, we know that Heather is now working for Fisk as the deputy whatever of mental health. And thanks to a recent interview with Dario Scapardo, or whatever his name is, the showrunner, we know that Heather is now Matt's ex. So, but she's still involved. What I'm curious is how that's going to play out. Also, what is this army going to be? Right now, we saw Cherry, we saw a couple other cops, and Karen, and Frank's already in custody, though it looks like he's about to get out. That might be the Punisher special. Jack DeCane is in custody, or is in Fisk's little prison. So if it turns out it's just a bunch of cops and stuff like that, I'm going to be disappointed. It needs to be vigilantes because that's what they're going up against. This is the vigilante task force, so it needs to be vigilantes. It needs to be the characters we know. Yeah, I want to see White Tiger. I want to see Angela become White Tiger. I want to see Fisk back. Not Fisk, I want to see Castle back. But the way they set it up, I think fans will be really disappointed if it's not Jessica Jones and Luke Cage and Danny Rand, and hell, I think people want Moon Knight. I think they want Mark Spector. And you could see Castle knowing Mark Spector and calling him in. And I mean, you're going to have a hard time explaining why Spider-Man isn't part of this. So I'm hoping Marvel doesn't try to keep it small. These are just the cops and stuff standing at people. It needs to be vigilantes. And I think there will be a massive backlash if they don't bring in vigilantes. Do you have to bring all of the Defenders in? No. But you need to bring in some. Misty Knight, Colleen Wing, you really got to bring them in, It would be a major mistake if they don't. Because I don't think people will be satisfied if it's just the group we saw in the bar. Matt's going to have to make some calls. Maybe he calls his former client, Happy Hogan, get some Stark gear. All right. So overall, I really liked Daredevil Born Again. I don't like giant cliffhangers, but I have to think of this differently. Everything Marvel's done so far has always been, the Disney Plus shows are all kind of one and done. They're like expanded movies. This isn't that. This is a legit TV show with a cliffhanger ending. So have to accept that and see it from that point of view, that they were setting up the next thing. And if that's the case and they come in and they give us a good build up and and payoff to that, then that's going to be awesome. But like I said, they can't just have it be a bunch of cops. It needs to be the vigilantes we know. It needs to be named heroes. So, yeah. And yeah, we want to see Jack with the sword. You brought the swordsman in. It's like Chekhov's gun. He needs to fight. So that's that. Let's move on to, we got a behind the scenes look at Superman. And there's a few takeaways from it that I thought were pretty interesting. There's some little gray, like alien creature that we see with Lex Luthor. Don't know what that is. Don't know what that could be. Is that John Jones? Is that a version of Metamorpho? I don't know. but we get the little tiny version of the alien. We're going to have to see what that is. There's also a scene where we see somebody leap up on what looks to be the side of a wall and cling to it. And I don't know anybody currently listed for the movie that makes sense about. I mean, maybe Rick Flag Sr., because it looked like it could have been him, but that movement doesn't make sense for him. So who is clinging to the wall? You know, I mean, did we suddenly get the creeper thrown into this? Hey, I'm up for that. So that I thought was interesting. We got a great first look at Metamorpho. I mean, that looks like it's straight off the comic page. That was gorgeous. I like the heart that seems to be not only coming from what we've seen in the movie, but from the people working on it. They really want to tell a good Superman story, and a Superman story that's different than what we got previously. And I'm all for that. My biggest knock against previous Superman incarnations is that they all have a basic flaw. The Christopher Reeve Superman, while Christopher Reeves was awesome, it was a little more campy than I like. And I realize it was the time, but I don't like the campiness. But that aside, my biggest problem, and if you ever watch my Lex Luthor psychology video, you'll know that this is coming, is they treat Lex Luthor like a megalomaniac. And he's not. He's a narcissistic personality disorder who believes that he should be the savior of mankind and that everybody should be looking up to him. And Superman makes him feel small. And that's why he hates Superman. And his plans are bigger than a freaking real estate scam. And that is all that they have done with Lex Luthor. In Superman 1 was a real estate scam. Superman Returns was a real estate scam. He was just making new land. He was going to get beachfront property in Arizona in the first one. He was making new land with Kryptonian technology in the Returns. And that's not Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor is bigger than that. Lex Luthor is more intelligent than that. So I'm hoping that they treat Lex properly in this. My problem with Man of Steel, and don't get me wrong, I liked Man of Steel. I am not a Snyder hater. I did not like the scene with Pa Kent dying the way he did. There's 1,001 ways they could have done that differently. You know, he could have raced in there, grabbed Pa Kent, and when he came out, the stress of moving at super speed caused the heart attack that killed him. That would have had a permanent damage on him. There could have been a second person Clark had to save. There were so many possibilities they could have done to get the same result, but having him just not save his dad or save Jonathan to keep his identity a secret is so not Superman. Also, and I'm not even someone who hates the way he dealt with Zod. I think he probably would have tried to come up with a better way, but I could see that being the end result. Also, Superman would have gone out of his way to get out of the city, and he doesn't. And I don't mean he had to succeed at doing it, but he had to try. So those are some of the things that I think were mischaracterized of Superman. But again, I loved Henry Cavill as Superman. Overall, I liked Man of Steel, but there were some holes. So I'm hoping that this will be more of the Superman that is hope. That is more than just him saying that the S on his chest means hope, that he is the symbol of hope. You know, that he finds his place in a very cynical world. So I'm looking forward to the movie. I'm also looking forward to the Fantastic Four, and we got a new trailer for that. And I think these movies are going to juxtapose each other pretty much. I'm being keyed up here. All right. Ed, what do you think of Superman? I'll let Ed type while I talk about Fantastic Four. And hey, Jay. The Fantastic Four, I think where this is going to be, Superman's going to be a movie about hope. I don't think we're going to get much hope out of Fantastic Four. It looks like whatever universe the Fantastic Four is currently in isn't going to make it through this movie. That they're pretty much toast. And that the FF is going to end up leaving. And I think we're going to get the same kind of ending we got in Infinity War, which was that down, we lost feeling. So it'll be interesting to see those two play off each other only a few weeks apart. And it says the first thing that comes to mind is Bite Me, Jay. So, I don't know what's going on between Jay and Ed, but I'm curious. All right, and Jay says, love you. So, okay. But I am looking forward to the Fantastic Four. It's funny, knowing that Eben Moss-Bachrach is playing Ben Grimm, I see him do something just standing there. Or the way he moves, and it's like totally see the character from The Bear. I totally see that guy. And it's just kind of funny to me because we're seeing still shots of Ben Grimm, and I'm like, oh, that's the guy from The Bear. Okay, I'm excited about Superman movie. The more I see, the more I like, so I'm going in hopeful that it will be fun. I'm all for that. I that's my attitude too. Perfectly in lock sync with you there, bud. So, all right. So yeah, that's my thought on Superman and Fantastic Four. I'm looking forward to both, but I have a feeling we're going to walk out of there feeling two very different things. Yeah. I heard something awesome today, and it's something that I hope is true. Is that Marvel and Disney are going to start releasing fake leaks. Not put them up online, but put them out to leakers. So that burn them? Because these guys put up so many leaks that aren't true, and then they ignore the fact that they're not true, and they just move on and give the next leaks. It's like, I heard, the Batman 2 is dead. Batman 2 is not going to happen. Batman 2 has been canceled. There's nothing that says Batman 2 has been canceled. Latest word from the people who run Warner Brothers is that it takes 2 years to put out a Batman movie, which means that they're just waiting for the script. And as long as the script is done by the summer, they can start pre-production and be moving. So to put this out in October of 2027. So I don't know why people keep saying it's dead. And it's just other, this character got recast. Oh, Coleman Domingos is going to play Kang. Coleman Domingos says he's not playing Kang. This person's coming back. They say they're not coming back. Just so many leaks and stuff. And it's just websites trying to get you to click to pay the bills. And then when they get burned and they aren't right, they don't come out and go, I'm sorry, I was wrong. They just move on to the next leak, the next rumor. FF is missing something for me. Not sure what. It just isn't making the goosebumps like the Superman teaser have. Jury is out on FF. I hope it's good. I can see that. I totally get that, Ed. Plus, we have been burned by the Fantastic Four multiple times, and that's no pun on Johnny Storm. I actually, kind of liked the Jessica Alba, Chris Evans versions, Michael Chiklis, Ian Gruffin. I was okay with those. I didn't love them, but I was okay with them. They were like, hey, we got the Fantastic Four. They look like the Fantastic Four. Their powers are like the Fantastic Four. And they beat the Alex Hyde White movie from the 90s. Hated the Miles Teller Fantastic Four. That was just such bad movies. Bad movie. So I'm hoping that Marvel comes in and does a good job and people get excited about it. But I also think I'm a little more forgiving of movies. You know, I can find something to grow on in most of these movies, you know? Yeah, see, they love the Fox. Both Ed and Jay like the Fox ones. And they were fun. But I don't know. I think a lot of people we think a loud voice means many. And that isn't necessarily true. Content people are quiet. Just remember that. If you're hearing a lot of people online saying something is bad, find out if they've actually seen it or if they're just saying what other people are saying. You know how many times I've talked to somebody and said, hey, you going to see this movie? No, I hear it's bad. You hear it's bad? Who are you hearing it bad from? Oh, I heard it from somebody online. Did you read the article? Well, no, I saw the headline and everybody, all these headlines saying it's bad. Well, the headlines say it's bad because they want you to click on it. Shouldn't you make up your own mind? If you like these characters, shouldn't you support it? Shouldn't you hope that Disney continues making superhero movies, even if one isn't quite what you want it to be? Isn't supporting it a better idea so the next person in can get a chance to make it right? Just saying. It's Jay says, I'm with you on the FF. I feel like that universe doesn't make it for Superman. I don't think it's linear. I think we start off the beatdown, and when he's in the fortress getting drowned with rays, flashbacks. Oh, I see. So you think him getting his ass beat is the beginning. The middle is basically flashbacks and everything. We get to know him, and the end is the final fight for whoever beat him. And I can see that. It's not a bad idea. It's not a bad way to approach it. Yeah, I could see that. So, all right, guys. Anything you guys want to know about? Anyone want me to talk about? Any questions you got? I got a few more minutes. Yeah, trying to think of anything else. I watched a show on Netflix called Black Doves with Keira Knightley and Ben Winshaw. Was surprisingly liked it. It's not great, but it has some neat twists and turns in it. Started watching Mobland. Not sure if I'm going to keep with that one. Watching The Bondsman with Kevin Bacon as a bounty hunter from hell. That one's okay. Feels like something we've done before. I think I mentioned that I watched the Robin Hood from 2018 with Tara Edgerton and Ben Mendelsohn, stuff like that. And that was just a Batman movie. It really was. Jamie Foxx's character was just Alfred. You know, it's kind of weird that they did that, but it was really just a Batman movie. It says, so Jay had a spontaneous Superman Day show on Friday. I didn't know he was doing it, so I took my sleep meds. Then I saw it and invited me on as a guest and asked me first. So you brought on a high version of Ed. Just a bit over 2 months left. How's the universe going, Dan? Just 2 months left. Oh. You mean Obsidian Moon? I was talking about that at the beginning of the show. First chapter is almost done. It is underway. And now that I've got the voice of Jimmy Doyle back in my head, I can get that thing written. So still looking for a business partner who wants to be involved to do the Kickstarter side for me and help me with that while I focus on the writing, but I don't know if I'll actually find anybody. But other than that, it's moving. Ed says, what does Superman mean to you? And my drugged up mind drew a blank, and all I could say was fun. So Jay had been teasing me about that, as he should, because yeah. What's the symbol in your chest mean? It means fun. That would be a great line in the Zack Snyder movie. It's Kryptonian for fun. But yeah, Obsidian Moon is happening. I've got a lot of ideas. It's just a matter of being able to sit down and focus on them. If anybody wants to send me a big bucket of money where I can put my rest of my work aside and just write, I would. You know, I buy lotto tickets just so maybe that could happen. But yeah, big bucket of money. I would take it and I would just write. Oh, started reading a new book. I had just finished the third Ink and Sigil book. If you're a Kevin Hearn fan, ever read The Iron Druid, he kind of continued that universe in a 3-book series called Ink and Sigil, and that just completed, and I finished that, and that was a lot of fun. Same narrator reading the books, and I enjoyed those. But I started something called Dungeon Crawler Carl that everybody online is talking about. And if you are a fan of video games, Dungeons and Dragons, humorous writing, and cats, this is the book for you. Short synopsis real quick. The entire world gets smushed except for people who are outside, Carl being one of them, along with his ex-girlfriend's cat. And what's left of humanity is forced into a dungeon to see if any one person can make it through all 17 levels and retake the Earth before a corporation takes over and sucks it dry of all its resources. That's Dungeon Crawler Carl. It is funny. It is clever. And like I said, if you are a video game fan and a D&D fan, this is right up your alley. I listen to books rather than read them because I just don't have time. And yeah, it's pretty awesome so far. It's Jay says, put it on the list, big bucket of money. Okay, got it. And just to add to the incentive, today is the 20th, so not this Tuesday, but next Tuesday is the 29th, if I'm right. That's my birthday, so I happily take big buckets of money for my birthday. Just saying. Or single malt scotch. That's also acceptable. Let's see. It says, so it's Reacher over and now Daredevil over. What's the next show to watch, talk about, anything coming up? Andor is about to kick off. And if you haven't watched the first season, it's one of my favorite Star Wars things of the last few years. I'm checking out The Recruit on Netflix. It's got a good sense of humor. I'm only one episode in, so I can't say too well. You might want to check out The Bondsman. Like I said, with Kevin Bacon. That's on, hell, I don't know what, I think that's on Hulu or Prime. You'll have to look for that one. But those are the things I'm watching. Lisa and I have a list we go through, and it's funny is she'll sit down and she'll read off her list of shows, and I'm like, nope, hate that, nope, hate that, nope, hate that. Okay, we'll go with that one. You know, I'm not a big horror guy, so I skip a lot of horror stuff, and she's always like, Daryl Dixon, you can watch it when you want. Go in the room, go in the living room. You can watch Daryl Dixon. Not for me. But yeah, I like spy thrillers and stuff like that. I'm looking forward to the Jack Ryan movie, rewatching that. I'm doing a rewatch of White Collar. If you've never watched White Collar, that's one of my most recommended shows. I used to watch White Collar and Leverage every week, and those were two of my favorite shows at the time. And they're doing a new season of Leverage, so check that out. If you're not familiar with Nero Wolfe, since I mentioned him as being kind of the inspiration for, Matt Bomer is awesome. Actually, I just watched his new series, Mid-Century Modern, with Nathan Lane and Nathan Lee Graham and Linda Lavin. And it's described as being the gay Golden Girls, and it is. And it is one of the funniest new shows I've seen in a long time. It's not a sitcom. It's a comedy. I hate sitcoms because it's like, hey, look at this bad situation we got into that's going to cause a lot of awkwardness. Oh, look, if we would have spent 1 minute talking to each other, it would have solved the problem. That I hate. A show where characters are just funny. That I like. That's why I liked Night Court growing up. Stuff like that. This show is a comedy. It's really funny. And the fact that Linda Lavin passed away before the season was over and they had to deal with it, they dealt with it in such a beautiful way and still found ways to be a little bit funny. So it says, I'm seeing rumors all over the place, but have you read anything that gives us hope for a Cavill James Bond? I don't think it's going to be a Cavill James Bond because I think he is aged out where they want to start. If they're going to relaunch a Bond, it's probably going to be somebody in their early 30s so they can have them around a while. But there's a few different directors who have talked about wanting to do a Bond movie. And Christopher Nolan being one of them. So you can look at the people that Nolan likes to work with. And we'll see what Prime, now that Amazon Prime has it. But Amazon Prime also just secured the rights to Highlander, and that is Henry Cavill. So I don't know if they want to split him over franchises like that. So we'll see. But no, I don't think Cavill's going to end up being Bond. I'd love to see it, but I don't think it's going to happen. So yeah. I feel like I was talking about something else. Oh, Nero Wolfe. If you're fans of detective series, but have never watched Nero Wolfe, the A&E version, this came out a while ago. Timothy Hutton plays Archie Goodwin. You can find them on YouTube. It's 2 seasons, and they're on there. And it's a unique show because they use this almost theater production style cast, where what they do is that they'll do an episode, and then the following week they'll do another episode, but the same actors will return in different roles. So it's almost like they have this permanent cast of characters or cast, and they just do a different story, like an opera or a theater house. Goodwin is always Timothy Hutton. The father from Life Goes On is always the detective, and Maury Chaykin is always Nero. Everybody else changes. Oh, and the butler's always the same too, Fritz. But other than that, Saul Panzer ends up in it. Everybody like that, Ori. But overall, it's just a really good adaptation of Nero Wolfe. They take the actual Ruck Stout books and adapt them directly, and it is such a fun show. And when you I go back to them to listen to get the speech and cadence of Jimmy Doyle back, because what Timothy Hutton does verbally is how I want Jimmy Doyle to sound. So, been seeing a King Spawn movie being thrown around the internet. Have you seen anything about it? Nothing yet about Spawn, but I know McFarlane's always pushing for Spawn. So it wouldn't surprise me if it eventually happens. You're getting close to ending the show, and we're trying to distract you so you'll go longer. I appreciate the honesty there. But yeah, go on YouTube or look for the A&E Nero Wolf series. It is so good. I will rewatch it every once in a while. See, I love old detective series. I'll go back and rewatch the Britt Reed? No. The Sherlock Holmes series, Jeremy Britt. That's it, Jeremy Britt. I'll rewatch all of those. I'll rewatch the Hercule Poirot with people's names are escaping me now, but the long run of those. And I'll also go back and watch Nero Wolf with Timothy Hutton. Those are always just great to me, and I love them. But we were talking earlier about, people taking inspiration and making characters. So that they do that all the time. I mean, if you look at House was Sherlock Holmes. You look at Murder, She Wrote. That was Miss Marple. Anything, you look at characters like that. So, yes, I was inspired by Nero Wolf for Lucius Fogg and Jimmy Doyle. But I'm pretty sure Nero Wolf never had to take on vampires, werewolves, and a zombie army. Well, I appreciate that, guys. I will say that there's been talk with Kyle about something new coming on the experience, and maybe me popping up occasionally on that. So we'll see if that happens. Kyle gets a lot of ideas, and whether he gets them going or not always is interesting. But he asked if I'd be interested, and I said, of course, because I do like talking comics and stuff. House was an amazing medical adaptation of Sherlock Holmes' House. Wilson, Vicodin, heroin, yes. Also, if you go back to the pilot episode, the first patient he sees is Irene Adler. That one gets missed for some reason. But yeah, House, Holmes, Wilson, Watson. Yep. By the way, if you guys are watching Watson on CBS, that's pretty good too. They've already introduced Irene Adler, Moriarty, and a few other characters, but and we've heard the voice of Sherlock, so it should be interesting to see what they're doing with that. So, all right, I think we're going to call that there. It is Easter. I hope you all had a great day with your families, or with your friends, or just had a good meal. Lisa made, from my recipe, what I call Fight Club ribs. And I'm going to tell you about Fight Club ribs before I go. That way, Ed and Jay get a little longer with me on the air. I call them Fight Club ribs because you don't talk about these. These aren't the ribs that you take to other people's houses. They're not the ribs that you share the recipe. They're Fight Club ribs because you don't talk about Fight Club ribs. They're crock pot ribs. Nobody wants crock pot ribs. You have a barbecue, you go out, you make your ribs on the barbecue. You do it properly. You make it in the oven. You do it properly. But let's be honest. There are times that you want ribs. And it's like raining outside. Badly. And you can't get out there to the barbecue. And maybe your stove doesn't do a good job of cooking ribs. And you don't have the time. But you want ribs. And you want to be able to put them on for low and slow. And come home that night and have ribs. And as long as you got a good dry rub on them and you cook them this way, they come out tasty. They come out like ribs. They don't have that good char on there. You can get that by adding them for a few minutes in the broiler, put some barbecue sauce on them and broil them. But overall, you make them in the crock pot when it's just to get that taste of ribs when you can't do them properly. But the other reason they're called Fight Club ribs, and I warn you about this, because if you take them in a crock pot to a barbecue, people are going to fight you. Just saying. So Ed says, my wife did crock pot ribs and oh my God, they were so good and tender. Yeah, they do. They make them really tender. They don't, like I said, they don't get that char on there that you want, or that sometimes that smokiness, but it's really tender beef or tender pork. So you can do pork or beef. But we did them. They were tasty. Had some scalloped potatoes and some Brussels sprouts. It was good. But they're not the ribs that I'm going to show up at a barbecue with. You just don't do that. I'm going to show up there with my homemade coleslaw, or I'm going to show up there with, I do some garlic mashed potatoes, not mashed potatoes, but Parmesan garlic potatoes. I got some good crock pot recipes to take to a barbecue, but you don't take ribs in a crock pot to a barbecue. That's going to get you into a fight. So, and if anybody wants the Fight Club recipe, let me know, and I'll email me or hit me up, and I'll send you the recipe. I've got a bunch of recipes, by the way. I'm kind of putting together a little cookbook. It's my pandemic cookbook because I didn't learn how to cook until the pandemic, and then I started learning and doing everything from duck à l'orange to beef stroganoff and chicken pepper cash and stuff like that. So, I don't know, and if you showed up at a barbecue, not sure too many people would want to fight you. Okay, fair point. That's a fair point. So, all right, guys. I've been playing around with the new air fryer. We have an air fryer finally. Lisa moved in and had one with her. I have yet to try it. I need to try that. So, all right, guys. Absolutely wrapping it up here. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad you did. I didn't know if anybody would show up on Easter, so I appreciate that. Again, if you haven't signed up for the Obsidian Moon mailing list, please do so. I'll put all that stuff on Facebook. I'm going to start doing stuff with that. I will probably offer a freebie book to everybody once we hit a certain number. So I will announce that. I'll put up some things for it. And when we hit that number, everybody will get a digital copy of that book. Don't know which one it'll be. It might be a fog book. It might be something else. We'll see. But again, Jay, Ed, everybody else, thank you for tuning in. It's been fun. And I will see you all probably next week.